Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our January 23rd, 2024 meeting. It's our very first commission meeting of the new year, so we want to welcome each one of you here. We're going to begin our meeting with Commissioner Christian Caban introducing the pastor who will provide the invocation. Commissioner Caban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the invocation today, we are going to have Pastor Matthew Wiley from Lake Talcon Baptist. He's accompanied by his wife Kim and his mom Kelly. So, Pastor Wiley.
Thank you to the commissioners for having me today and to Commissioner Caban for the invitation. Everybody bow your heads, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I'd like to thank you for this beautiful day. May we all know that every morning you wake us up and allow us to draw breath is another day that you're giving us to serve you. We all have our own path in your call to service, Lord, but we're all called to serve you. And I ask that as they follow their call to serve you, you place your hands on the hearts, minds, and souls of our county leaders today and every day moving forward as they make decisions that will affect the people of our county and our communities. Help them lead in a way that embodies the victor, Jesus Christ, with strength, conviction, empathy, courage, and love. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
We'd like to thank Pastor Wiley for providing us that very appropriate invocation. And we certainly welcome you, your congregation, and your family for being with us this afternoon. At this time, we have a proclamation recognizing Miss Melissa Don Hughes from Goat House Farm. And that presentation will be made by Commissioner Caban. So those present to receive the proclamation, will you join Commissioner Caban at the podium?
Whereas the Goat House Farm is a micro-goat dairy and educational farm located in rural Leon County on Lake Talcon. And whereas the Goat House Farm began in the summer of 2015 with just 4 acres of land, 4 goats, and 4 chickens. And whereas the Goat House Farm is owned and operated by Melissa Don Hughes. And whereas the Goat House's farm's primary goals are to educate goat owners on scientific best practices and holistic care, to develop and build community educational programs on goat husbandry centered around compassion, empathy, and environmental awareness, increase youth participation in dairy goats through 4-H and FFA programs, to improve the community wellness through goat-assisted therapeutic services, to partner with organizations to enlarge shared missions. And whereas the Goat House Farm partners with Leon County 4-H Extension Office and Agent Valerie Mendez and is home to the Leon County 4-H Dairy Goat Project. And whereas the Goat House Farm, Inc. and the kids in the 4-H program participated in the North Florida's Fair Showmanship and Fitting Contest. And whereas Ethan Harmon, Rosaline Harmon, Isaac Carroll, and Lillian Cabrera placed first in the Showmanship and Fitting Contest 4-H and FFA Dairy Goat Show. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, that we recognize the Goat House Farm, Inc. and Melissa Hughes for her dedication to the community, commitment to educating the youth and goat owners, and her compassion and care for the animals. We express our gratitude and appreciation for the partnership with Leon County 4-H and the opportunities it provides to kids in our community. Dated this 23rd day of January 2024, signed by the Board of County Commissioners and the County Administrator. If you want, only if you want.
So these are our kids that won this year. Our program has grown from 2 kids the first year to 3 to 4, and this year we have 30 kids signed up. So on the premise that if we don't get more youth involved in agriculture, we're going to be in trouble in the future. So we're super grateful for our youth for participating and for being patient with some unruly goats this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban, and we certainly thank you for engaging our youth in those agriculture-related activities. We are proud of their involvement. Commissioners, at this time, we have Commissioner Maddox, who desires to appear telephonically. Commissioner Maddox, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you. So I'd like to entertain a motion to allow him to appear telephonically. Thank you. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. No opposition, I vote aye. Thank you so much. Now, Mr. County Administrator, are there any citizens to be heard on consent and non-agenda items?
Madam Chair, we have no citizens to be heard. Actually, sorry about that. We do have one item that is on consent, item number 17, that has been pulled. And so we've got the opportunity to do that. And items pulled were 8, 9, 13, 14, and 17. But we do have speakers on item 17 when you get to that point in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Commissioners, we're now on consent agenda, absent those items that have been pulled. And Mr. County Administrator, will you give us those numbers? Give me the numbers again. 8, 9.
8, 9, 13, 14, and 17.
Okay, so move. Excluding 8, 9, 13, 14, and 17. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner O'Keefe. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. And I vote aye. Madam Attorney, we do have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Mr. County Administrator, I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the order that they were pulled, we've got item number 8, which is proposed revisions to policy 96.1, the purchasing policy, and following that, and these two are related, the item number 9, which are proposed revisions to the tourism event grant programs, pulled by Commissioner Caban, and I've got Ken Morris on deck who can answer any questions related to these.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Do we have we don't have any speakers on those items?
Not on either of those.
Those two. Commissioner Caban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion for discussion purposes so that we can discuss agenda item 8. So I'm going to move option number 2 to not adopt the proposed revised purchasing policy.
Is there a second? It was second. Discussion.
Thank you. I personally, I have multiple issues with this agenda item. Number one, there are substantial changes being proposed to this policy. I don't think it should have been in consent in the first place. I have the 2 stacks. One was the previous policy, and then I have the proposed policy, which is somewhat, if not double in in size. The analysis in the agenda item says one of the reasons for these changes are to, in quotes, to be consistent with industry standards, including the City of Tallahassee and Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency. I don't want county policy built around Blueprint policy. If we are going to start mimicking policy that is laid out in Blueprint and try to bring them over to the county, I don't think that's good governance. I don't think taxpayers would appreciate that. I'm not a fan of that. Typically when we have policy changes, we get a red line copy to go through and compare and match the differences and changes. This one, we didn't have that. So we had to go through and manually look at it and highlight the changes. Some of the proposed policies in here were doubling the threshold for staff spending without it coming to the board for approval. I don't think that's good governance. I think that when we have such big policy changes, such as purchasing policy, we spend millions of dollars throughout the year. There's bidding processes. There's certain avenues that we need to go through for good transparency and good accountability. I think when we're discussing policy changes like this, there's not enough leeway for us to make changes or to offer alternatives. And so I personally think that this policy should be laid out in a policy workshop. And then we could all come to the table with a red line, look at the clear changes. Some of the policy in here clearly says that we're going to increase spending thresholds from $100,000 to $250,000. That's what is a 150% increase. So I'm just not really comfortable with it. I'm really curious to see if any other commissioners have any input. I'm not sure if I'm the only one, or I'm just curious to hear what other commissioners have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Caban. Does any other commissioners want to address it? Commissioner Caban, Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly happy to answer any questions that the board has specifically on any of these in particular. Again, we view these as minor in nature, conforming in nature, a consistency-based in nature, very, very consistent with the way we've always handled items like this. However, again, should the board have any issues with any of this, happy to bring these back separately, address them as separate issues, standalone items, if you will, or we're very happy to address each and every one of these. Generally speaking, each one of these have a reason or an issue or a challenge that were associated with them. But again, we don't bring them to you sort of one at a time or as when each of those issues come up. We wait for an opportunity to sort of bring them as a whole once we're into the policy to sort of take the opportunity to clean, several different things up at once. But again, happy to answer any questions on any of these. I think you'd find them to be all very straightforward. And again, we're prepared to answer those questions.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Are there any other comments, Commissioner Proctor? We're on consent agenda item number 8 that has been pulled, that increases the purchase power from $100,000 to $125,000 by the purchasing director.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Purchasing authority, I guess is what it says. Right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. This was a big item, thick item. Purchasing over the years has gone to equity. And I know that Florida is not a state that thrives, or we're trying to put the flames and embers of equity out. But procurement, we have goals in that. There are the nuances of when staff can make purchases. We have those that qualify, 4 or 5. For instance, the county attorney can call 4 or 5 attorneys. When we pick up debris from storms, you can call 3 or 4 companies. You don't have to bid. I think it's time for a workshop on purchasing, and it goes to the core of what we do in expending the dollars for the public. And of course, over the years, the numbers bear out that we have continued to fail to meet our mark in purchasing. It was not a thrill, but years ago, when the late purchasing director, Mr. Keith Roberts, was our purchasing director, I asked that the county administrator fire him. And I'm not sure entirely. I didn't know, but I felt that we were over and over, year after year, missing minority inclusion involvement. And I felt we need a new director that could implement the policies that were on the book. We now have conflated minority purchasing aligned with inside the office of the OEV. And when we used to have the city numbers alone, stand alone, the counties stand alone, school board stand alone. But this has just been a complete wash, MBE. And how we account for the numbers, and when you're going through the tributaries of city, county government, all of it in the same pot, going through the same instrument of the Office of Economic Vitality to account for something, and it's just very hard to maintain transparency that is accurate and precise, and really nobody knows. So we all, I guess we stand a little taller with our numbers combined, but I'm not sure why we pulled this issue, but when I saw this matter, I felt it was a very broad and big matter for consent. And to extend the purchasing power of $25,000 is not a lot, but it's just the whole, it's the whole stadium of purchasing that I think our new commission deserves to have an overview. We need that. So I would, is there a motion?
There's a motion on the floor for option 2. I will entertain an amended motion to workshop this item. Yes, it was your motion.
May I make a point of clarification as well?
Yes.
On page 138 of 1067 in our agenda, it has all the purchasing process thresholds. Some items are 25,000 that are increasing, some items are 50,000. One item in procurement agreements are going from 100,000 to 250,000. So there are definitely some big increases that are exceeding $25,000 and changing. I just want to clarify that as well. But I will amend my motion to not accept the purchasing policy and schedule a workshop where we can come together as a board and come up with a policy that works for everyone.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those, Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you. I actually have a question, Madam Chair. In this purchasing, specific to this item, purchasing policy, has any new delegation been added? So a further delegation to lower levels of the staffing organization in this item?
Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you. Please.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
No new delegations. You'll see on Table 2, which is page 14 of the agenda item, it's 138 of the agenda package. Those were existing delegations that exist in the current purchasing policy. I believe what Commissioner Cabana is referring to is that some of those thresholds that authorize the current delegees to act without board authority is proposed to be increased. The other thing that was reviewed as part of it, and this was a comprehensive overhaul of this policy, which it was most recently touched to remove the OEV provisions, because as Commissioner Proctor pointed out, that's all been consolidated under OEV for the MWSBE portions. The exceptions to the purchasing policy were reviewed to see if they make sense, if they were ever utilized, if they were clear, if there has been confusion in the past about whether an exception applied. So that was part of the review and overhaul of the policy.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Anything further, Commissioner O'Keefe? Okay, Commissioner Maddox, I know you're on the phone, but I understand you'd like to weigh in on this issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, Mr. Administrator, will you give us an explanation for the increase, the double increase on that one threshold? And also, I'm in a place where I want to go ahead and accept this policy, and then we can still look at workshopping it, but I will accept the policy and workshop it, bring it back for workshop. But I do want some explanation, I think, to answer the question of why the thresholds increased so much, Mr. Administrator.
Sure, Madam Chair.
Please.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Yeah, and again, and I think commissioners have noted this, there's probably a dozen or so changes in here. Some of them go specifically to sort of increased costs and that sort of thing. All of these, you should note, are consistent with previous board-approved budgets. They're all done in the nature of expediting the regular business of the county so that we can do things as efficiently and quickly as possible. Again, all consistent with board direction, of course, and previously approved budgets and that sort of thing. But on the specific one that you noted, Commissioner Maddox, on the doubling of the authority, I'm going to defer to Mr. Morris on that one. He's got just a better grasp on all of them.
Sure. I would just point out that the ceiling threshold, the county administrator's purchasing threshold, remains at the 250. What you see in the agenda item materials are a lot of the thresholds for, let's say, for example, the purchasing director. Those thresholds increase, but of course stay under and within ultimately the county administrator's authority. You see some changes relative to the purchasing of used equipment for the county and how many appraisals we would need to get in that process. And those are to reflect just changing market conditions and what needs to go to the county administrator versus what can be approved by the purchasing director.
Thank you.
Chair, if I might just add, by all means, if the board would like to slow this down and conduct a workshop, we'd be very happy to conduct a comprehensive workshop on all of this and remain under the current threshold if that's the desire of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I'm in order.
Yes, sir. Commissioner
If I'm in order, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we postpone action on this item and bring it back for workshop.
Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Cabana, is there further discussion?
I think that's what
That's where you.
I think that's what my motion was originally, to not accept and schedule a workshop, and then bring it back.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought your motion was to reject it. Then alternatively, it was to workshop it.
Yes, ma'am. The alternative
Okay.
one was to reject it, to discuss it over a workshop and bring it back. Either way, I support
Okay.
Commissioner Maddox's motion.
All right. Any further discussion? Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that unless something radical has occurred, our county expends about, I'm going to stop at 95%, but 95% of all of the county's dollars in our vending and contract are spent with white male firms. It's more difficult for us to identify it, being that those numbers now are funneled through OEV. And in a sense, it's as though OEV serves as a, I can't think of that word but it's a wall that blocks the transparency, and it protects the exposure of the absence of our closing the gap in expenditures with minority vendors. We're a board that have allowed 96 to 97% of our county's tax dollars to go to white males year after year after year. Don't know how to break the cycle. But I think that a part of our workshop should break out not just procurement as a process and the stratification of who gets to expend at what amount. But when we don't bring a matter back to the board until it's at $250,000, but everything before $249,999, and most of the work that minority contractors and vendors are doing probably just would not be perhaps even reach 250. So all the decision-making is occurring outside the scope of this board. And not accusing anybody of bias, I just don't know why the numbers are so stubborn in not evolving for the benefit and the DEI, inclusion, the I, and the inclusion part is just slow. So I would like, commissioners, if we're serious about it, it's not just at what threshold, what lieutenant, colonel, general, all like that get and how much they can spend, but also how do we get to track old numbers that we used to have, don't see no more, and increase the expenditures with minority vendors. All of that comes up when I look at this. So those are my comments on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. So basically, your comments are, as part of the workshop, you like an analysis of, I guess, the expenditures below the $250,000 that's part of discretionary funding on the part of the county administrator and the purchasing director and all of those that have that authority.
Right, and it'd be also good to index how many contracts and how much spending is occurring under 20,000, how much is at 50,000, how much actually goes out over 250. I'm not sure what the volume looks like. From $5,000, do we spend more money between 25 and 30? We don't know, but it would be a great index for this board to observe. And that also would help us to know how to set gauges or standards on that, right, that the frequency of and what volume, amount, and frequency are we making these choices.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Mr. County Administrator, I haven't heard those comments. Can that be part of the workshop?
Absolutely. We'll make sure that we have Mr. Jones here with our WSBE program involved completely in that. I'll remind the board that the decision was made several years ago to combine our purchasing power along with OEV, the City of Tallahassee, and Leon County, so that we could advantage, in particular, minority businesses and avail them to a whole lot more. We discreetly, I'll remind the board, bring to you an item which shows our spending, county only, as well as city, and blueprint every year. And just for the record, the county exceeds our disparity study goals consistently. So, but with that, we'll be happy to include all that in the workshop.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real briefly, I'm gonna oppose this just because, shocker, I don't think we need a workshop on this. But that's all. Looks like that's where we're going. Just want to note that's why.
Okay, thank you so much. All those in favor of the motion to workshop it with the additional information that the county administrator has indicated would be provided, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Opposition?
Nay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 9 are proposed revisions to the tourism event grant programs. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
And I believe, Mr. Commissioners, that was pulled by Commissioner Caban.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This policy, again, something that I originally wished would have been in general business and not in consent. But when I look at this policy, I think about where this board was potentially 20 plus years ago when they were laying out the IA agreement with Blueprint and delegating authority from this board to staff. My problem with this is that, the TDT is essentially a local tax. And this policy is built around essentially giving majority, if not all the power and authority of this tax to staff and away from this board. I don't think that's good governance. I think that, we should have a lot more say, especially when folks come in and there's applications and bidding and grant funding. I think that it should come before this board. That's my personal opinion on this. Additionally, this policy says that we cannot use grant funding during FAMU homecoming or FSU home games. I know that there are a lot of events around FAMU homecoming and FAMU football games as well. And I think that this policy just needs another look at it. So I'm going to move to not accept this policy and schedule a workshop to go through it as well.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that because I want a couple of things he touched on. That's right.
Is there discussion then? We've got a motion and a second. Commissioner O'Keefe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This one, I'm glad we pulled it. I understand the need to be able to move with speed and efficiency. I'll just note that my only concern here is there's no limit to the delegation, the way I read it. And so I understand the need for delegation and am happy delegating what's in here to the county administrator. But I would, if we bring back a revision in a workshop, I would just like to see a limit so that it's something to the extent of delegate to the county administrator or a staff member directly reporting to the county administrator so that we don't find out that we've delegated down so that the staff accountant is signing contracts or something. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner
No offense to
O'Keefe.
the
I
staff
don't know,
accountants.
when I read it, Mr. County Administrator, I thought, my understanding was it was a $250,000 limit, but can you weigh in?
Sure, Madam Chair. Much like the previous item, I'm sure if the board would like to discuss any of these in particular, I can carry up here. Again, this is all consistent with approved budgets of the board. So you might have an event, for example, a cross-country event. We've brought it to the board. We've brought the budget to the board. We've brought all your major contracts, that sort of thing. You might have an issue where, as you get closer to the event, you may need contracts with food trucks or food vendors or that sort of thing. It literally to save time, as long as things are within budget, that sort of thing, to be able to delegate that to a director of tourism. I hear what Commissioner O'Keefe said about the level of delegation as a practical matter. That's generally where I stop, but I understand the desire for clarity around that. But again, if this is something the board would like to take a closer look at, we're very happy to bring that back and go into an exhaustive review of why we believe all these things are necessary in the best interest of the county.
Thank you. Ms. County Administrator, commissioners, other comments? Commissioner Proctor.
I looked at I guess it was 2.4 on page 7 of page 220 of 1067. We've actually said that grant funding will not be considered for events that occur during peak visitor period. And those periods include FSU home football game weekends, anticipated to fill existing hotel room inventory. The FAMU homecoming weekends, FSU or FAMU spring and fall graduation weekends, and Monday through Thursday during the regular state legislative session. I'm not understanding why those periods of people getting, what's that word? Price gouged. These are the weekends that we do it to people. And if there is a time that to offset costs and overhead, these are the moments when you need it, because some of these hotels around these graduation periods, it's just unmerciful. And I think the Tourist Development Council, me serving on there, I think the Tourist Development Council does a great job. And if anything, there are too many external influences and influencers that speak to the resources of which the Tourist Development Council is over. And it's not been it has not been just a singular occasion that our county has asked the tourist development to pay for the cost of this, to pay for the cost of that. COCA has some interaction, and I don't have enough command to articulate their processes, but tourist development pays for a lot of things that is not just regularly you would think under their banner. So I recognize that they're pick up the tab on a lot of stuff. But posturing this period as a blackout period, I disagree with. I do not agree with. And I serve on the Tourist Development Council. Am aware of their strides. And we can't get this county commission. We can't get the city's commission. We can't get Florida State, North Florida and University to raise their weak voices with respect to price gouging of their constituents. I don't know what it is, and I don't know why prices quadruple and triple around these particular events. But I feel as if we are conspiring with this policy with the price gougers and the hoteliers who take advantage of the parents, the families, the associates, the friends, the alumni who come back to Tallahassee during this period. And I don't want to be a co-conspirator with gouging the support system of Leon County.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Maddox.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. Thank you for calling on me. So here again, I don't see a whole bunch of problems with this. I would almost like to, if the board wants to workshop it, I'm not opposed to that, but I definitely don't want to reject the policy. I think we can start with the policy and the workshop as being a starting point. So I would actually make the substitute motion that we accept the policy as is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Ms. Carrie Post here, and I believe the county administrator would like for you to address some of the issues that have been raised by this new grant funding policy.
Madam Chair, did my motion get no second?
It was seconded by Commissioner O'Keefe, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So we're in discussion now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to provide additional insight on the comment about the blackout dates. So there is some understanding. The Tourist Development Council approves the guidelines and the blackout dates every year. And what this specifically pertains to is our tourism event grant program. And what that does is essentially, again, looking at ROI, it's kind of like you're spending money to promote events, but yet you have no capacity to have additional folks come into the market. So that's it. When your hotels are full, you kind of don't need to be supporting events that all we're doing is helping them come stay and, I mean, nothing but Jefferson outside the market because we have no more capacity on the Miami game, et cetera, you know, when we're at capacity. So the TDC has long voted in their grant policies to recognize these blackout dates to the extent to say, why fund other events in the market at the same time? I mean, literally on the same weekend. You're basically like plopping events on top of each other when you don't have the capacity, you know, to accommodate additional folks in the market. So that is why the blackout dates are there. To an additional, I heard some comments earlier about there are some events that take place on, say, homecoming or, FAMU Rising, for example. We're marketing partnerships with them and with the Get Down because, again, we know that helps the visibility, but not in the grant event dollars because this is specifically pertains to events coming to the TDC requesting funding for events that they want to hold on specific weekends. And again, if we're already sold out that weekend, that's why the TDC put this in place to say, shift to another weekend when we need the business and can accommodate the business.
Thank you, Ms. Post. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Post? Commissioner
I
Proctor.
ask one, and this is hypothetical. So the Frenchtown Rising event, puts together a big platform for alumni, friends, supporters. They're not eligible for funding during the football season. I'm just using one example and hypothetically.
As in the tourism event grant program, that is correct. But using Frenchtown Rising event as an example, we provide sponsorship dollars to the organization. We tell you it's outside the grant program because the grant program is specifically, the purpose of the grant programs is to generate room nights in the destination because events are great motivators for travel. So you want them to, but whereas Frenchtown Rising event is another one of those, it's a great event, but it doesn't fit in the grant program. So we provide sponsorship dollars to support that event because we recognize what an important event it is in the market, but it's just not suitable for the tourism event grant program that is based upon room night generation.
Okay, that's a great distinction. Now, that's an important delineation for me. But to the extent that I believe the county commission should look over the shoulder of TDC, I'm not as strongly compelled that the board should or has to, as I think Commissioner Van wants to gain a sense of interactive processes. But nevertheless, I'm open to all of us learning about the process is a very important instrument, and I'm sure that Carrie is wide open. You're doing an outstanding job. I read the magazine last night that you all shared with us, and it really whet my appetite. That was a great magazine that you put out, that you shared with us yesterday at the retreat. But I'm open to the direction of the board. I appreciate knowing that I have misread the measure in part to it shutting out local vendors who are sponsoring and doing things, but that there is a sponsorship category. So that clears up some stuff I didn't.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I wish you had put this in the notes and I wouldn't have had this attitude.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, years ago, I was part of a group that helped form Tallahassee Music Week. And during that time, we got a first-rate education on the tourism industry here locally, right? And that's what I think when I first got a chance to work with you, Carrie. So at that time, I learned about, you know, we all know this part. I mean, our tourism peaks during football season and during the legislative session. It's a huge peak. And for the rest of the year, for a large part, it's a big valley. And so a big part of what Carrie and her team are trying to do, as well as anyone that's focused on enhancing tourism, is to try to fill in those valleys, right? And so that's what this grant is all about. And I share your concern regarding like how it might affect Frenchtown Rising and some other events. But because of the sponsorship, I think that's a smart approach.
Yeah.
What we could do with this grant is we encourage Frenchtown, Providence, other neighborhoods to host events and apply for grant funding during that valley period. Because the best, easiest way for us to maximize our tourism revenue is to fill in those valleys, right? And that's what this grant, I think, is designed to do. So is that corroborate what your perspective is on this? That's
correct. When we're looking for business throughout the rest of the year is when we want to help incentivize and stimulate events.
Another reason is that, you know, our restaurants, they staff up during our peaks. And then often they have to let employees go during the valleys. And then when the next peak comes along, you have to hire new people and retrain them, and that's incredibly expensive and inefficient. If we can bring tourism dollars during those lull periods, we can have our businesses and our restaurants and other businesses have more sustained employee workforces, right? And that's better for the employee, it's better for the business, it's better for our local economy. So I think this is a good, smart, strategic approach for the grant. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor, and I appreciate too that there are certain categories that you all look at for events in the city and in the community, and the qualifications, you know, are different depending on, I guess, the time of year, location, whatever. So it's not like a one-stop shop. We have to look at the different categories and see what's applicable and what's not, who's eligible and who's not. So thank you guys for a great job. we have a motion on the floor. Commissioner Maddox, I believe you made the motion you have a substitute motion on the floor, I believe. You made the motion to, I believe, accept the policy, and it was seconded by Commissioner O'Keefe. That was a substitute motion. I just want to make sure we know where we are. Okay? Commissioner Caban, you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to support the substitute motion. I think we're being a little inconsistent as a board. If we vote for that motion, just on the prior agenda item, we didn't approve it. We voted to have a workshop to discuss it and then come back to it. I think that if we accept this right now and these changes and then have a workshop, I think we're being inconsistent. I hear what Commissioner O'Keefe, you were saying about the delegation. I understand that very thoroughly. In my businesses, there's a lot of things and a lot of tasks that we delegate, but I think it's healthy and transparent for taxpayers and our constituents to have a layer of comfort where we are having proper oversight. I understand that when we have events, there might be a food truck. Well, that's why we have a threshold. I don't think we're hiring $250,000 worth of food trucks. And so I think that right now, I'm not going to support the motion. I appreciate where we're coming from, but I think we're just being a little inconsistent right now. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, Commissioner Caban, because the initial motion was to workshop it, if I'm not mistaken. That correct? And it was second. Substitute now is to approve it and then workshop it. So I understand Commissioner Caban's concern.
No, ma'am, that motion, I did mention workshop, but that motion, Madam Chair, was just to approve the policy.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Maddox, will you repeat?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, that motion was just to approve the policy. There was no workshopping.
Oh, okay, just to approve the policy, was no workshop. Okay, any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Briefly.
I just briefly want to say that Carrie knows that I failed this year to bring up price gouging at the TDC. I failed this year to bring up price gouging here at Board of County Commissioners. And the reason that I felt that I was not going to get any traction this year was because we had the number 4 team in the United States, and we had a team en route to becoming a national champion. When you got 2 teams with a record 25-2, they could have charged $2,000 a night this year. And so I knew if nobody was going to listen or pay attention. But I still think that notwithstanding, winning does make a demand for a room, but I still think that quadrupling the price of the room is a bit much for graduations and all that. And I don't know where we start. It's just something we really ought to know just morally not right. And the people whose children are in these events, they certainly don't make that kind of money. Many of them, most of them. So that's why I remained silent, because the schools did so good that I was just wasting breath. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Any other comments? And let me just say, I've read this policy. I appreciate Ms. Post's comments, all the work she and the county administrator and those have had on it, but I feel comfortable about it, Commissioner Caban, because it does look at various events that will happen throughout the year. And we have clear direction on what's permissible, what isn't. It's not exclusionary. And knowing that, even knowing personally that they support certain events in the community, doesn't give me any major concerns with what we have before us. So I will be supporting Commissioner Maddox's motion to approve this policy. If no other comments, the motion on the floor is to approve the policy. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Any opposition?
No.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item was pulled by Commissioner Minor on item number 13, which is the approval of a reimbursement agreement between Florida Gulf and Atlantic Railroad LLC for Tower Road crossing repairs. Happy to answer any questions you might have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few years ago, my family and I lived for a short time off of Tower Road. And back then, this railroad crossing was in bad shape, but it's gotten much worse recently. And so I just wanted to pull this item to thank the county, to thank Florida Gulf and Atlantic Railroad for working together to address this. This is a good example of seeing the need from the neighbors that have to drive over that railroad crossing. And it is to the point where I believe it could damage vehicles. So it really is necessary to repair this. I just want to thank the county, thank the Florida Gulf and Atlantic Railroad for making this agreement and getting the work done. So I move to approve option 1.
Thank you. All those, any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Commissioner Maddox?
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye. So it passes unanimous. Thank you so much. Ms. County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 14 was pulled by Commissioner Proctor, ratification of the joint project agreement between Leon County and Blueprint for the Magnolia Drive multi-use trail improvements. Again, this simply extends the term of the contract to allow Blueprint to finish out that work. There are no additional changing of terms other than that which have been previously approved by the board. With that, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Administrator, I was curious about the distinction between the sidewalk versus a multi-use trail project. What is the distinction?
Charles Wu.
Is wider, will allow the multi kind of vehicles to use, like the bicycles and pedestrians.
This is for Magnolia, the part from Jim Lee Road to Appalachia Parkway. Is that right? Is it?
No, the next phase will be from Pontiac Drive all the way to Diamond, then from Diamond to Appalachia Parkway, yes.
Okay. Now, that part, we approve this project, I believe on the same day or the same night, at the same time, the Magnolia Sidewalk Project. The part from Monroe up to Pontiac has been completed now for possibly 2 years. And on the same road, with the same vote, the same people voted for it. And what hindereth the completion of Magnolia Drive's sidewalk?
The subsequent phase is because we need to acquire the right-of-way first. Actually, Blueprint is managing the right-of-way acquisition. Not until we have all the additional right-of-way acquired, we can really start doing construction. For the next phase, from Pontiac Drive, Diamond Drive to Diamond, we are going to bring agenda item to the board for the bid award for construction in the next meeting in February.
Okay. On the engineering part, when you get to Jim Lee, would you have to go to the other side of the road to, because you know when you cross Jim Lee, there's a ditch that has, 30, 40 foot dip.
Yeah, that corner will be rebuilt to make it safe. In addition, there will be a new signal at Jim Lee and Magnolia Drive. That will be signalized, that intersection.
Okay.
As part of this project.
All right. Now, equity, I'm thinking in equity frame. A multi-use trail, is that what is currently available on Magnolia? Or is that just a sidewalk?
Yes, Commissioner. That is a multi-use trail right now.
That is
the part completed, yes.
We're talking about putting the same stuff going, is that north?
East and then turn north, yes.
Yeah, okay. Curious, is there a starting time or a completion expectation? I'm sorry, Commissioner, I know I'm talking in your district right now, but we've been laboring with this project forever.
They're all our constituents. You go right ahead.
Okay, I just want to be crossing the street, going across Pontiac and
If the board approved award the bid in February for construction for the Mountain Trail from Pontiac Drive to Diamond in February, we believe that in maybe 6 weeks, we can start construction. Depends on the contractor, how much lead time they will need to order materials. And the anticipated construction duration is 9 months.
Okay. I'm just pull this Commissioner Cummings because it's been completing this has been just amazingly hard. And we have competent staff. That first leg has just been a tremendous improvement there on Magnolia. It's just that I just have been perplexed by why it stopped. We've already approved this. Why we got to come back and gnaw on the bone. But county administrator said the terms are all the same, and we're not losing money up expending more to complete it. But God knows, is badly needed. And I'm saluting the takeoff and the completion time. What was completion again, Mr. Wu?
At 9 months after construction starts, yes.
Okay. So we're going to cut the ribbon and whatnot in 9 months. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor, and thank you. Hold on one second. Does any other commissioners, Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Proctor. You're right on. I'm glad to hear 6 weeks plus 9 months, and I'm excited for it. I'm going to be down there with Commissioner Proctor getting my steps in once it's open, and I'll just say that our neighbors are very excited about this. When I went knocking doors last year, no offense to the county commission, but nobody knows what we do except for 2 things. The thing that shall be named and this sidewalk. This is what people have been waiting for a long time, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept
Madam
agenda.
Chair, I move staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been moved and second to accept staff recommendations. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye. So item number 14 is accepted. Mr. County Administrator, back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The final consent item pulled is item number 17. Commissioners, this is a revised enabling resolution for the Miccosukee Canopy Road Greenway Citizens Committee. You may recall that you previously approved this as a focus group. However, things in terms of the nature of the work they were doing required it to become a decision-making committee, which sets off some additional changes in the need for the revised resolution that's before you. Again, happy to answer any questions that you might have on this item, and we do have, as I noted, a few speaker cards.
Thank you. The speakers.
Thank you. The first speaker, Sue Noyes.
Thank you. Madam Chair and members, as a member of the Citizens Committee for the Miccosukee Greenway, I am confused about the need to change the role of the Parks and Recreation staff as it pertains to the operation of this committee. I served on the Florida Recreational Trails Council, the Florida Greenways Council, the Greenways Coordinating Council, and other statewide organizations. The ones that operated via a citizen chair, not part of the governing body, had a better environment to focus on the issues at hand. It's sort of like being subject to feeling like you are back in school to learn from a teacher. It allowed each member to use their expertise and creativity to the fullest for the good of the purpose at hand. Your commission policy 3-15 lists staff responsibilities for committees. One of them is to assure the committee elects a chair. You are trying to take this responsibility away from the committee and put it in the position of being a student. I request that you allow this committee to elect who they want as chair rather than the county doing so. This greenway will become more of a haven for all of nature with the development and roads that are coming, that are already beginning to affect it. The members of this committee are experts in their fields and deserve to give this greenway the best chance to succeed. Please reject this resolution and let us do our job with the help of your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Rob Lombardo.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair
Good afternoon.
and members. I've been the president of the Miccosukee, Friends of the Miccosukee Canopy Road Greenway for about 20 years and a volunteer, Leon County volunteer for about 35 years. I've been here before. I've talked to you before. The Miccosukee Canopy Road Greenway is a state park, 500 acres that was actually given to Leon County to manage back in 2003, I believe. The management plan for the Miccosukee Greenway and the Citizens Committee is the issue that you are now dealing with this resolution. Our public parks and the experience unprecedented recreational use in the next 10 to 20 years as new homes surround the Miccosukee Greenway. The next management plan must address these development challenges with the best land management experts familiar with the Greenway. Most of these are volunteers now, and they live in Leon County. Friends of the Miccosukee Canopy Road Greenway is a network of those volunteers who have been working side by side with your staff in Leon County Parks and Recreation for 25 years. Our partners include the scientists that know this property and know the features most likely to suffer or to thrive when residential development takes up more of our open space. The collaborating with these scientists, and I'm not talking about, some rocket scientists, I'm talking about biologists that work out in the field and scrub around in the dirt looking for things that might be savable, but also land managers, farmers, equestrians, trail experts, planners, local government staff, and all of these have helped us protect what we can and to minimize damage when we can't. The management plan was written in 2013, and it became our wish list, really, for the next 10 years, and those 10 years are now up. Now we face a 10-year future that is quite different. The new plan will be realistic and will be matching resources of yours with our volunteers to come up with goals, evaluating the best practices that address the pressure of more people and more maintenance. Our volunteers working in the field, as we do often, trimming trails from horseback or while walking, this is our concept of volunteering. We don't sit around and talk about things. We go out and fix things. Addressing the pressures of residential and commercial development will be the challenge of our near future, and I think you know that very well. This is not the time to create a management plan that minimizes this challenge. This is the time to meet that challenge with well-designed plans to draw the near future and expand our network of interested volunteers to get the work done. Whoops, I'm a little over, I'm sorry. Today's resolution falls short of this challenge. 3 things I want to point out. The future plan must directly relate to the challenges we face, not just things that we'd like to fix because we know how. The experts can advise us on which approaches are needed in certain areas, from repairs to multi-use trails to mowing strategies that best serve the needs of the users. And these are the people that are walking. These are the baby carriages that are trying to make it across our trail systems, dodging traffic at our crossings. These are the people that actually create the public purpose. We believe the resolution before you today does not address the need for leadership that freely explores options, recommends priorities, and works closely with staff. as we have done all these years. We believe the resolution recognizes the optimal growth provides for the recreational opportunities and plans to provide those opportunities through the Greenways program. We hope to be your partner for this next 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombard.
Next speaker, Eric Draper.
Thank you very much, Eric Draper. I am a former director of the Florida Park Service, and I'm now a volunteer with Capital City Cyclists, also a county appointee on the Bicycle Working Group. Thank you very much for appointing me to that. It's been a great experience. And I'm here to address the revised resolution that's been discussed. I want to thank you so much, commissioners, for providing so many beautiful and well-maintained county parks. We, Leon County residents, are really, really lucky to have so many nice places to recreate and enjoy. I enjoyed the slideshows showing Commissioner Minor planting a tree out at Lake Henrietta over the weekend for Martin Luther King. How great. The Miccosukee Greenway is unique among county parks in belonging to and being leased from the state of Florida. Rob made that point. 500 acres of conservation land. It's important, it's conservation land. That has a legal meaning under state law. Mostly unbroken trails and where people can get away from traffic and safely walk. It would be nice to see the multi-use trails along roads, but this is the one that you can get out and you can walk 7 miles away from traffic. As a condition of the county's lease, and because the Greenway is conservation land, the governor and cabinet have to approve the conservation plan. That's delegated down to their council, but it's their approval, it's their land. The details are spelled out in state law. And that's what we go along with for getting to have free the use of 500 acres, which is worth $4 million when it was purchased. And you can imagine it's worth way more than that right now. The state paid those dollars. We just have to take care of it. Now, as a director of state parks, I signed off on many management plans. Advisory committees played an important role in helping to shape those plans. Sometimes they had to keep us honest. We were an agency, and sometimes they made us do things that were inconvenient, but they're really valuable role, as Rob mentioned, so much expertise that comes in that you wouldn't otherwise have as staff. One of the most influential members of that came from citizen support organizations, and those CSOs at the state level generate $4 million in contributions and provide more than, what did I say here? Like a huge amount of million hours of service. All right. Now I want to think of McClay State Park, where your Friends organization puts on the famous Moon over McClay. That's an example of CSOs. So I've come to admire the Friends of Miccosukee Canopy Road Greenway for their efforts to improve the Greenway. They made our community better. Now, the Friends groups and others are worried about the future of the park. We need to be worried about the future of the park because it's going to be fragmented by, I'll just be very quick and wrap up. It's going to be fragmented by all these roads. It's not going to be 10 years from now, after the conclusion of this management plan, what it is right now. We have to look into the future and we have to think about what that's actually going to be like. And so we have to call upon this group to do that. And I'm fortunate, on behalf of Capital City Cyclists, to get included in that advisory committee. And I accept the fact that you have decided to make sure this advisory committee is operating in the sunshine. That's part of what your resolution does, to make it a decision-making committee. Get that. At the same time, for reasons we don't understand the resolution, name the chair of the advisory committee. I tend to agree with Sue and Rob that it's better and it's consistent with all sorts of other committees that all of us have served on, to have the members actually set the process and to allow the members to select the best among them to be the chair in the same way that you have a chair elected among yourselves, to kind of set the agenda, keep the pace, and make sure that everybody is listened to and that all the questions get resolved. That's what we're asking of you here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Draper.
Final speaker on this item, Brett Barteld.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Brett Barteld, Mahan Farm. I'm probably one of few businesses that have a need for the greenway. The space is not enough for horses. I've got people now, I've been here long enough, when it was a dirt road, it was accessible for the horses and people. It's long since been that. Now with everything going on 90, I can show you the traffic that buzzes by. We now have to have people that have trucks and trailers to leave my own property just to get to the greenway. It's safer. It doesn't make sense in this. In all the places I've lived, from Jacksonville to Atlanta to London, this greenway could be like nothing else if we put it together right, if we keep it continuous, we keep the activity around it. Again, the tourism, the lag in it, we can pick it back up. We have to have that kind of draw of the greenway and the usage of it. It's been great. When I worked at Mainline Information Systems to bike it, nobody knew what it was for the most part. To come back in 06 and see how good it was doing, it gave me incentive to do something with this farm. I could get choked off from it if this keeps happening. Anything we can do to be part of it as citizens, I would like to be. And the Greenway group has been a good group. So however we can get engaged and involved, I'd love to have y'all out to my farm. Come see it in the morning. Come see the wildlife. See the things that I see, the deer, the turkeys, the bobcat, how my horses watch them. This is the healing that's just what we need, that inclusion of everything, not just a specific group. We'll choke off the wildlife. We'll choke off to some extent, we'll choke it off if we don't find a way to make sure it's still accessible, very accessible. And I feel like it hasn't been for us for a long time. So anything we can do to step forward as all this is happening would sure be great, because we know Amazon was never planned before this. It's all affected my front and my back door. So however I can be involved, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bartell. Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very quickly on this item, I would like to ask Maggie to come up to the podium real quick. I understand the concerns that have been raised. Just wanted to take a moment to provide a little bit of a clarification. Perhaps we found ourselves in a little bit of a technical challenge in dealing with this issue. First of all, if you know anything at all about Leon County, you know the lengths to which we go to get full citizen participation, and we need these citizens on this committee, and certainly it would not be Maggie or Amanda Heidecker, if you know the two of them, to exert their will in any way on this board, but rather to facilitate the most robust citizen engagement we could get from this committee. It's just what we do. So what we have, though, is a technical issue here related to Amanda Heidecker's statutory requirement to be on the committee and her designated role as the lead with respect to the management plan and facilitating this committee without the potential of violating any sunshine law issues now that it is a decision-making committee. Maggie?
Yes, thank you, Vince, for teeing that up. First and foremost, my heart for Rob, Sue, Eric, and others. I endorse everything they said about the importance of this collaboration, and folks like Rob who have been involved since 1998 when this property became the greenway that we know it is today. So it's their legacy that we are building on in this next plan development, and thank you, each of you, for that and your partners. As Vince was sharing, specific to the chair role, when this was a focus group, there's not a chairman in the same capacity as county policy dictates when it is becoming a decision-making body, as the resolution is proposing tonight. In that, as the administrator was sharing, there's strict sunshine laws that we have to abide by, both as staff and members of the committee. And because the state mandates the makeup of at least 11 of the 14 members that we'll have on this committee, including a representative of your commission, which you've elected Commissioner O'Keefe to serve, we have less latitude than we would on other decision-making committees. And because our Parks Director is an appointed member of this committee, there are a lot of limitations when it comes to sunshine, communication, preparing for these meetings, those meeting minutes, and collaborating with the chairman as you traditionally would to prepare for meetings like this. So it was really much more of a practical solution, but we are at the will of your leadership. If there's an alternative approach, we welcome that.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Mr. County Administrator. Anything further?
Nope.
I believe Commissioner Minor pulled this item, so I'll give deference to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't the one that pulled the item. Was it?
Oh, you didn't pull 17?
Actually, you're right. I got my agenda items mixed up. You were correct, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. I want to thank the folks that came to speak today. And some of the folks that have been on the commission for a while have maybe heard me say this before, but when I ran for office in 2018 for the county commission, I did a lot of door knocking, spoke with a lot of voters, and the thing I heard more than anything else was, we're going to support you. When you get elected, make sure local government listens to us. Now, I think the county does a good job of listening to people and seeking public input. Having been on the outside for a while and then now working on the county commission, I really do think the county does a good job, sincerely good job. But the perception is there. The perception is that local government is trying to steamroll us and trying to get what it wants without listening to the public. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's true in the county commission and the county administration, but I understand the perception. What I think is important here is that we've got people that have been citizens contributing for years on the Miccosukee Greenway, experts, spending untold numbers of volunteer hours, providing highly valuable advice on the management and the future of the Greenway. I think what this does is it sends a message to them that could be perceived in a negative way. That their input, that the control of the committee is basically being ceded over to the county. At the same time, I recognize in my briefings, talking with our county administrator about this, there are some statutory requirements that this committee needs to abide by and check boxes we need to check during the course of this planning. So what I'd like to do is have a motion where we can take a look at the structure of the committee under the requirements of statutes and see how we can retain a citizen being elected as chair, elected by the members of the committee, but yet still having that same type of county, we are held accountable by the state, by the statutes on things we need to accomplish. So maybe we, in addition to the chair and the rest of the committee, maybe we have a county staff person serve as the vice chair or as the committee administrator. Similar to a nonprofit that has a board, but then they have an executive director that actually manages the work of the organization. I think we're all relatively smart people. I think we can come up with solutions that would address the concerns of the citizens that have devoted untold number of hours to the quality of the management of the Greenway, and yet still achieve what we want, what we need to per statutes and on the county administration. So my motion would be to basically defer this agenda item, have it come back at the next reasonable amount of time for our next board meeting with an exploration of those options, where we can retain the citizens having control over electing the chair of their choice, and yet still having someone on the county staff that would be able to assist the committee on managing those check boxes that we need to check off and formulating the plan. I think to me that seems like a very good compromise. What we need to have that come back to us, though, is to make sure that it does comply with the statutes. But I think if we can make that happen, and I think our county attorney's office can ensure that that is compliant, I think that's a very good compromise. So that would be my motion, is to defer this item, ask our county staff to go back and take a look at what other options there might be to restructure this committee so that we have a compromise that satisfies both parties.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Minor. Is there a second on his motion? Second by Commissioner O'Keefe. I'm going to defer a minute to the county administrator, and then I think I have Commissioner O'Keefe in queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the motion, Commissioner Minor, I was just trying to save you some time in terms of deferring the item and bringing it back. I think if it's the direction of the board, if you have a motion today that simply says that we would have a citizen act as chair, we'll figure it out. Again, this is an abundance of caution issue. But it's one that we can manage. If you give us that direction, we'll do that. We'll figure it out.
That's why our county commissioner is the best commissioner, best county administrator is the best administrator in the world. That sounds great. So I would modify my motion per the county administrator's comments just now. So we will we'll adopt this item with the exception of making sure that the chair remains an elected position from the members of the committee. That'd be my motion, ma'am.
Thank you. Are you okay with the amendment? Awesome. Any other comments from Commissioner O'Keefe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Minor.
And I believe you're our appointee to this, to the Miccosukee Greenway, correct?
I am.
Awesome, okay.
I am, thank you, and I'm honored to do so. And I want to thank Brett and Sue and Rob and Eric for coming and for all your work, and Commissioner Minor for this. And this motion gets to what I was going to be getting at, and what the county administrator and I have been fighting about all weekend. And we've already gotten where I wanted to go. I had so much to say. The issue here is, there's a big issue here with this is, I'm not gonna lie, it put a bad taste in my mouth that as soon as I get appointed to a very important committee for a very important issue for my community, we change things up so this committee no longer chooses their own citizen representative. Now, the county administrator with legal advice and context from the county attorney have assured me that it's not because of how I dress or how I look. But all jokes aside, it's an issue. And so what I was going to ask, and this might be helpful to clarify, or if the county administrator knows where he's going with this, with the motion, I'll leave it, but that's not the message I got before this meeting. That was that if there was another way, I would do it. So my question is, the issue here comes down to, I got no problem it being in sunshine. I got no problem with it being a decision-making committee. I have a problem with the citizens not being able to elect their chair, and especially in a area where we have citizens who don't just show up and comment. These folks have been doing the work by volunteering out there for 3 decades, doing the work that helped us get 500 and keep 500 acres of greenway. And I have heard from some members of those communities that help, that for some reason, the amount of collaboration that they've been open to receive from our park department has declined in recent years, which is the context from which the suspicion comes from, to be very clear. And so if the issue of having is sunshine, and that the staff support person, staff lead is usually not also on the committee, they communicate with the chair. Can you tell me what generally is the communication? My assumption is it's scheduling meetings, things like that. What would help me to know who would be an appropriate staff support that's not the appointee? What is the nature of the usual communication between a staff support and a committee chair?
Madam Chair, it really depends on the nature of the committee. I mean, I think, Commissioners, it's incumbent on us to bring these issues to your attention. If we can avoid a very clear potential issue, which this is, relative to the decision-making capacity of this committee, we'll try to structure it in a way to do that, first and foremost. If we think we could do that and to facilitate a robust discussion of citizens, we'll do that too. But if the board's made a determination that says, we get it, we understand the potential issues, and we still would rather go in this direction, then we'll take that direction all day. But Maggie, you could probably talk more with respect to this committee. It is a little bit more detailed. There are thresholds we need to meet within the plan that are substantive in nature. We don't have a deep Parks and Rec staff. Other than Amanda, our Parks and Rec staff are mowing lawns and striping fields, so we don't have that capacity, but we'll create it. Go ahead, Maggie, you can speak more to the nature of the discussion and the communications between the staff and the committee.
Yes. And thank you for the question. So much of it is administrative tasks, coordinating, scheduling, making sure timelines and content is being made. But there's also the expertise of being the bridge between the state and this committee. As I think it was Mr. Draper shared, reminded us, you as a body are the initial approval, but ultimately this is a state document and state review and approval. So having that staff postured to kind of live between these two worlds live as we're evolving and receiving this feedback and reflecting on these needs is a posture, but as shared, we'll find creative ways to make sure we're within the bounds of policy and still achieving those goals too.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. And I would think for things that are administrative in nature, I wouldn't even suggest you need to expand the Parks Department. If you wanted to be so careful that they don't interact, I don't see there's any reason there's not an administrative professional at another level of the organization who is capable of scheduling meetings, and then you would just be figuring out the coordination between the state. We got a long meeting. I'll drop it and we'll vote on the motion But that was where I was going with where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. County Administrator, based on your comments, then as far as the committee chair, would the pending resolution before us, would it need to be changed? It would have to be changed. So, Madam County Attorney.
Yes, Madam Chair, it would just need to be revised to remove the provision that waives the policy to designate county staff as the chair. In the absence of that provision, the default provision in the policy will apply, and the committee will appoint the chair.
Thank you, Madam County Attorney. Any other questions, comments from commissioners? Commissioner Welch, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, provide for the record a clarification, right? Which is, we've kind of danced around that, but I get the concerns, right? But my understanding would be that, and this is the sort of genesis of this structure administratively, I mean, ultimately, it's this board's responsibility for the management plan of this property. Is that right? This is land that's owned by the state, and it is our responsibility. We were ceded that responsibility from the state. The structure has changed statutorily that requires it be a decision-making body, and we are trying to find the path of least resistance to doing that in the most effective and efficient way. Is that correct assumption, County Administrator?
Correct.
So I hate that it's kind of become tense. That's my point. I hate that the citizens who have served and obviously are passionate about the Greenway, which lies entirely in my district, and I totally understand and respect that. I hate that this has been approached in like a tense way, as if staff has some kind of ulterior motive to somehow affect outcomes, when I feel like the truth is that our staff is just trying to function administratively as efficiently as possible. And that frustrates me, because I didn't know this was a concern at all until today. And that frustrates me. I feel like these guys are, I realize they're hammers and they're just hitting nails, and they got a lot of them. And they're just trying to do things in the right way. But I think it's important that we as commissioners elected by this community acknowledge that this is our board's responsibility to manage this property. It is our board's responsibility. And yes, we value the opinions of citizens, and I don't expect for 1 second that this structure that we're talking about is going to somehow usurp the opinions of citizens. I don't think that for 1 second Maggie Theriault or Amanda Heidecker are going to go in there and bulldog their way through this to somehow affect the outcomes or the management plans. And I feel like that's what's kind of being suggested, and it frustrates me. And so I appreciate the county administrator's ability to acquiesce on this and go, okay, we'll appoint some, we'll do some more work, and we will finagle a way to make it to structure it in such a way that the chair is not the appointee from the county. But I feel like that is just being done in good faith, and I just hate the insinuation that it somehow it's somehow an overbearing attempt to control something that we all cherish, we all love, we all appreciate, we all want to protect, we all want to maintain for the public use, and we all have the obligation to do that from the people across the street. So I just felt the need to say that. I mean, a little bit in defense of staff, but I'm happy that if that will get us to a place and a posture that is more comfortable to the members of the committee, that we at least put that in the record and say that publicly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner Manor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Welch, I hear what you're saying, and I definitely do. I mean, when County Administrator and I talked about it, I mean, it's in terms of making sure that the plan is run through efficiently and effectively and captures what we need to. I totally understand. And I'm sure you agree with me about this, so that, we work for the citizens that elect us. We work for the citizens that live in Leon County. And so trying to make sure that we set up structures to where the people that we work for are able to provide input to us is important. I agree with you. I don't, as I said during my comments, I don't think the county administration here is trying to steamroll what it needs and wants over the citizens. I don't think that. I truly don't think that's what's happening. But the perception about government in general, not even specifically about Leon County, but about government in general, is that it often doesn't listen to people and often pushes through things that that may conflict with what citizens want or need. And so to accommodate the desires of the citizens who've worked for so long on this, I think we do have an option. It sounds like the county administrator has said that we do have an approach that could satisfy both the desire of the citizens to elect their own chair and accomplish what we need to in terms of formulating that plan. But I agree with you. I mean, it's not an insinuation that staff has some type of devious intent. I don't think that's the case. I just don't. But that perception does exist in the general sense about government, and I think this is a way for us to very easily address that point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Minor, any other commissioners? And I just want to say to the committee members that came before us this afternoon, we do value your input. Ms. Norris, Mr. Lombard, Mr. Draper, Mr. Bartell, we are here representing you, and we appreciate you coming to address us and to give us your concern. And we also value the fact that we listen and we try to, as I believe we're going to move forward today, try to find some compromising language or some compromising situation so that you will know that your input is valued. And so I believe, based on the comments from the county administrator, I appreciate the concerns raised by our representative on that board, Commissioner Minor. I think you have been involved in the past, and I think all of those comments are very valuable to this board. Now, we had a motion on the floor, but that was prior to our county administrator indicating that he would check with the county attorney, and we could, we will certainly acquiesce to the opinion of the committee members, the board members. So do we need to modify that motion a little? Okay, we think, okay. All right, hearing no other comments, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Maddox?
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Mr. County Administrator, I believe we are back on our regular agenda, item number 25.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 25, Commissioners, will be very fresh in your short-term memory. It's the ratification of the board's actions at yesterday's annual retreat. Again, what you'll see ratified here is all the direction provided by the board, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
We have no speakers on this item, and we're recommending the option before you.
Any Commissioner Cabane? Second. Any comments? I just want to thank you all for a very robust retreat yesterday. I want to thank County Administrator and all his staff for the workshop, all the information that was provided, the new initiatives that we addressed and accepted, and also for the status on where we are with the bold goals and initiatives that we adopted last year. So thank you all so much. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Commissioner Maddox?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Ayes have it. Thank you so much. Mr. County Administrator, I believe we are on agenda item number 26.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agenda item number 26, Commissioners, seeks your consideration of the Tallahassee Historical Society's revised funding request related to the $10,000 that was previously approved and awarded by the board. The funding was originally approved, by the board was for the printing and distribution of a children's activity book entitled Tallahassee 200, again, in celebration of the 2024 Tallahassee-Leon County Bicentennial. The state, since that time, rescinded its matching funds, which resulted in a revised request to support the production of a digital version of the book in the amount of $10,000. But just since the request changed, we brought it before you. We're recommending, or actually, we're recommending board direction, but option one would be to approve the Historical Society's revised request in the amount of $10,000.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Maddox?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you so much. Mr. County Administrator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, item number 27 provides additional information requested by the board during your workshop on human services and the CHSP last November on the proposed realignment of the CHSP human services categories. And when we brought this item to the board most recently, as reflected in the item, Commissioners, the CSC, as you all know, the Children's Services Council, was approved by the voters in 2020 and levies a property tax on all homes and all businesses in Leon County that generates more than $9 million for children and family programs. Commissioners, as we say in the item, that's more than the total human services funding allocated by the county and the city through the CHSP for all agencies and programs, which is about $5.6 million. As part of the recommended category realignment, the item presents a proposed partnership with the city and the county and the CSC that provides for a transition period to ensure the continuity of children and family programs and services during the upcoming 2-year CHSP funding cycle. The recommended realignment of the CHP categories would, again, Commissioners, high level, allow us to maximize limited human services funding that we distribute through the CHSP process, eliminate any potential duplication of resources, and hopefully improve the service delivery and focus on children's services, again, while trying to facilitate as smooth a transition as possible in close coordination with the CSC and, again, the city and the county. Commissioners, again, the last time we met, you requested input from the agencies who came and spoke. I have a number of cards. Again, today, we've included some of that input, all the input that we received in the item. And of course, Shinkton Lammy is here, who has facilitated a number of meetings since that time with the human services providers. And with that, Commissioners, we are recommending option one, and we have a number of speaker cards, as I mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. How many, can you see how many speaker cards we have?
Madam Chairman, I asked the county attorney
11.
a question. before we go
11.
to
So
speakers.
what I'd like to do, Commissioners, take a 5-minute break and then we'll start back.
Madam Chair, may I say one thing, please?
What?
Just before we start hearing the speakers after the break.
That's what I said. Okay.
I just want to say, my wife is a realtor who currently has a business relationship with the Oasis Center for Women and Girls, and as serving as a client to them. They're serving as a client to her, and they're in the process right now of conducting a real estate transaction for this agency. So therefore, I must declare the appearance of a conflict, and so regrettably, I should abstain from voting on this agenda item. So I just want to say that now.
Thank you, Commissioner Minor. We'll
Madam
take a
Chair,
5-minute break.
May I ask the county attorney a question when we come back, please? Before
When we come back, we will. Commissioners, if you would take your seats, please. Look like it's only us two, right? Everybody back there smelling that food.
Can't be here yet.
Yeah, after back there. Back there. I don't know what the food. In a good way. I knew this would turn into 10 minutes. Say 5, I knew it would turn into 10. All right, they need to come on. Now I have my phone. Oh, yeah, county administration. County attorney.
Thank you.
Where is it, back in your office, the county?
No.
You know I'm not gonna keep you waiting.
Oh, okay.
I'll stick it out for the chair.
Okay. Commissioner Maddox, are you still on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
All right, we're good.
So we've called the meeting back to order. Mr. County Administrator for our speakers.
Thank you. First speaker on this item, Shirley O'Rear, and I apologize if I got your name wrong.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here on behalf of asking for your consideration about the line item for in the county's budget for homelessness. I'm the executive director of Breon Family Services. We have a shelter, Breon House, which is a transitional shelter for women that are homeless and pregnant. It's the only maternity home, non-faith-based maternity home between Pensacola and Jacksonville. We also have served women all around the state and as far as in Georgia. So the point of our program is to help women become more successful and more self-sufficient. We do this through individualized case management. We have the capacity to serve up to 6 moms at a time. Right now, our current status is that we have 9 people there. We have 4 women, 4 infants, and 1 toddler. It's a huge responsibility that we have, and I wanted to just say that I appreciate that we have benefited from the funding from the CHSP process in the past through the county and the city. Also, I wanted to just say that the people that are on our waiting list, since we do have an ongoing waiting list at all times, they consist of people that are living in their cars, people that are at other shelters, people that are in domestic violence situations, moms and children that are living just on the street. But we also have a lot of success, too, of people that come through our program, that they are living right here in Tallahassee, living and working. I work with some of them in the human services field currently, and I just am so happy that we had the opportunity to be able to share with you what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Rear.
The next speaker, Lauren Stafford.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lauren Stafford. I'm the Executive Director of the Legal Aid Foundation of Tallahassee. We provide free civil legal assistance that not only addresses immediate concerns, but also contributes to building a stronger, more stable Leon County. At the heart of our mission is a commitment to justice and equal access to legal representation. Our organization plays a pivotal role in ensuring that all Leon County members, regardless of their financial means, can exercise their rights and find resolution to their legal challenges. Our services, which are supported through CHSP funding, are a lifeline for those facing adversity. The vast majority of our clients are facing family law challenges, mostly in the area of divorce, child support, and child custody. And the Legal Aid Foundation of Tallahassee stands as a pillar of supporting our community members through difficult legal processes. An excellent example of how this funding has assisted is a current client whose spouse made the decision to exit the marriage and forego responsibility of their 4 children, all under the ages of 10. With very few resources to navigate the difficult justice system, we have been able to provide our client with a child support agreement that provides enough financial assistance to allow our client to properly care for their children. Additionally, our services will provide representation during the divorce process, executing a civil separation, which ultimately will have a positive impact on the children and allow each member to move forward peacefully. The funds made available also allow the Legal Aid Foundation to carry out twice monthly mobile law clinics that places our volunteer attorneys in neighborhoods in which our clients actually live. Funding provides the resources to maintain proper staff and overhead costs associated with our mobile law clinics and other costs associated with successfully running a sustainable nonprofit organization. The results of meeting our clients in their neighborhoods are more community members served and more community members resolving their legal challenges. We believe that human services help provide a stable environment for our neighbors in need, which creates a ripple effect of positive outcomes, creating a more resilient Leon County. Without proper funding, our services will decrease and thus our community will be negatively impacted in the most concerning manner. I ask you to strongly consider who will be impacted by any realignment in funding and how a lack of human services in Tallahassee will affect our community as a whole. Human services are a lifeline for many community members, and we remain steadfast in our desire to assist those in need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stafford.
Next speaker, Kim Galban, Countryman.
Hi, yes, I'm Kim Galban Countryman. I am here representing the Board of Directors of Kids Incorporated, which I've sat on for at least 10 years now. So I watched you guys hit the pause button when you were talking about procurement and procurement policies, because you said, we need to workshop this. There were a lot of questions you had. I think we need to workshop the CHSP a little bit more. You're talking about families. At Kids Inc., we're getting about $120,000 from CHSP. We're bringing down $460,000 in federal match just on what we get from CHSP. We don't get that. That's 100 babies birth through 3 who no longer have quality child care. Of affordable quality childcare. That's 100 families of our poorest citizens who no longer have a place to put their child. Talk about the cycle of poverty. The impact of this is going to be significant, and I don't understand why we're not pausing. Let the cycle go through one more time, and let's regroup and figure out what, how we do this without impacting so many of the citizens here. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Countryman.
Pat Holliday.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to first of all thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you. This is the first time since my retirement that I've come before this body, but I felt that it was very important for me to do so today because of the decisions that are being made and how they will impact this community. My comments are not meant to be adversary or negative toward anyone. I'm only trying to make the comments that I'm making because I'm sincerely concerned about what is in the best interest of this community. The people that are served, the neighborhoods that are served, the families that are served, as well as the individuals that are served and depend on the CHSP funding. In the social work, I'm a social worker by trade, MSW, and one of the things we learn real quickly is to do no harm. Whatever you do, do no harm. And I've added one that I've learned from being a government official for so many years, and I'd like to read that. I said that, or I would add at least to do minimum harm by reducing risk factors leading to unforeseen domino consequences and effects by policy decision-making. Some of the concerns I'd like to address with you after reviewing the agenda item and also having a great grasp of what the community is. I've worked in this community for decades now. I've been in social work all of my life. And by the way, I am a Head Start kid graduate myself. So I understand what it means, not just from a professional perspective, but also a person who had to depend on these services and their families that helped us survive and helped me get a scholarship to Florida State University. Some of the concerns I have, and I would like to kind of list them, I kind of summarize them. The ability of CHS, the Children's Services Council, to incorporate vital CHSP-funded programs into the existing funding system, including CHSP-funded programs that would be competing for the currently funded programs of the Community Services Council. So that is going to set up a competitive process. We all know that. And then there will be some fallout from that. The other part that I would like to ask about is that it lists that there will be 22 agencies affected by this agenda. Some of the questions I have are as follows. Specifically, who are these agencies that we're referring to? What programs? Oh, do I need to go? Okay, what programs are in jeopardy? What programs are in jeopardy of losing their funding? What are the specific target populations being served by these programs? For example, what neighborhoods or individuals that are being served? The fiscal impact of not funding these programs. The analysis as far as the ability to draw down state, federal, and also foundation dollars. And I'm going to hurry and finish. They also noted, the other thing I want to talk about too real quick, I only have a couple more bullet points, but I sat down and thought about this and actually wrote it in my retirement, okay? But I thought these were very important points. I also want to think about the fact that currently, even though it mentioned that currently the Children's Services Council funds several CHSP-funded agencies, we have to note that they're not funding them for the exact same purposes. Mostly they've been funding them to expand the service delivery, right? So that more families could get served. And for example, the Boys and Girls Club, we fund them, they are funded by both funding parties, right? And they get funding through the Promise Zone. That allowed them for the first time to put a Boys and Girls Club in South City. As we all know, who know anything about South City, that's one of the highest risk communities for children in this county, right? The other part, I want to just kind of talk about information that I would have liked to have had in the agenda item regarding the proposed, on page 5, regarding the proposed CHSP funding categories. For example, it would have been helpful for you to know what the current budget is for CHSP in comparison to the proposed funding categories. What are the anticipated budget amounts that are being there? I'm a budget person, so I like to have numbers and serious analysis. I like to go and say, what if? What are the domino effects? I would like to have known the definition of the current, of the proposed funding categories compared to the existing ones we have. And also an analysis of which particular programs, agencies would fit in each of the proposed categories, so you can cross-match and see what the potential dropout might be. What programs might drop out, which programs will be better fitted for Children's Services Council, et cetera. That kind of just detailed data. The other part I want to talk about is when we reshift those funding categories. I'm sorry, I'm hurrying up real quick. When we reshift those funding categories, what is going to happen? The CHSP agencies are going to run to those categories that are already significantly underfunded. What will that happen? What will happen as a result of that? Will we destabilize the program that we already have, that families and communities depend on in this community? I want to tell you, though, that I do believe in change, and I'm going to walk out the door, Madam Chair. Change is good, and and we have gone through a lot of changes in CHSP over the years, but it's how the changes are done. I'm a member of the board of directors of the UPHS. I do want to note that as well. But it's how we do it. I think we have to do it thoughtfully, carefully, and inclusively. And that's it. Thank you.
We appreciate
with a sound transition plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holliday. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kelly Oddie, to be followed by Casey Dennis.
Commissioners, hello. My name is Kelly Oddie. I'm the Executive Director of the Oasis Center for Women and Girls. I really would like for you to hear what Pat Holliday just said, because what she's saying is missing from the agenda item is the thing that's driving everybody crazy, which is there was no in-depth analysis done of what the loss or the impact on the community from the organizations that might ultimately lose funding or reduce funding. We needed to do a lot more work on that area. First of all, I need to pay a compliment to your staff. After you directed them in November to come back out to the organizations, I thought they did a great job. They came out like 5 or 6 different ways, meetings. I had private meetings with Shinkton. I think they were open in some ways to hearing what we had to say, but I also think that there was a sort of a mission since November to get something done in a big hurry. And so I can't think of another item in the last 26 years that has come out on right before a Thanksgiving holiday and then gotten pushed this fast when it has such a huge impact on the people. So what I'm asking you to do is slow it down and bring in the people who are the experts in this issue. Understand that we can sit at the table and look at the bigger picture. We're also concerned with homelessness. We want our shelters to get more money. We want them to be able to serve more people. We don't want women sleeping in cars with their children. And we can sit at the table and talk to you about what those kind of changes might be that would benefit the community. But I think not having a fair process of sitting down and really listening to what the issues are forcing you to have to kind of take the main title instead of really understanding the impact underneath. The only other thing I'd say is a few months ago, I was told that it doesn't matter that I've been around 30 years. People are tired of hearing about it. But in this instance, I really want you to hear this one thing. When I got here in 96, the city had the consortiums. It was $1 million that was given to the different neighborhoods to do direct impact work. Within 6 months, agencies were in commission meetings screaming at each other about why they couldn't access money and what was going to happen with what was going to happen with that money. It was like $1 million that had been shared. Then 2 years later, CHSP was introduced and the same thing happened. It was like a train crash or a wreck in the human services community here. And it took us 2 years when we started UPHS just to get a joint planning board together where the agencies could be heard about CHSP. My point is, in the last 10 seconds, is that it always feels like we're playing defense. It feels like we always turn around and there's something coming at us that is going to hurt the people we serve or that we perceive it will hurt the people we serve. I'd like to sit at the table and just once actually develop the strategy for how we're going to win and get it across the goal line together in partnership with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Audi.
Casey Dennis to be followed by Sky Bess. Casey Dennis? Here we go.
Madam Chair and members, I'm Casey Dennis, the proud CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Big Bend. But at the heart and soul, I'm just simply a country boy born and raised in Tallahassee, Florida. I've been blessed for the past 20 years to live the dream of inspiring and enabling the kids who need us the most to reach their full potential as productive, positive citizens. But I haven't done it alone. I have an awesome team of board members, dedicated staff members who are in this room today, donors who believe in our mission, and a board of county commissioners who do what they say they're going to do. We constantly hear about the crime rates in our community, gun violence, homicides, and how 32304 is the poorest zip code in our state. Well, I'm here to paint a different picture. The youth standing behind me are the true faces of the 32304 zip code. This small portion of youth who participate in the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Big Bend each and every day after school and all day during the summers. 98% of these kids graduate from high school on time, attend college, join the military, or pursuing a trade. 97% of these kids feel that a trusted adult at the Boys and Girls Club is there for them, that they can express themselves to. Last year, 27 of these kids, 27 of our graduating seniors, received full scholarships from the Boys and Girls Clubs to attend college. 100% of these kids say they feel safe in these communities at the Boys and Girls Clubs. They want to go to college. They're not doing drugs. They're participating in community service projects that we have at our clubs. These are the youth from the 32304 zip code, 2525 Texas Street, Basin Street, the Macon community. These are the youth that are taking trips to Washington, D.C., Charlotte, North Carolina, involved in music, the drumline program, and appropriate dance teams, all at no cost to their parents. All of this is made possible because of our Board of County Commissioners established the CHSP process for nonprofits who can show and, more importantly, prove that they're making a difference in our community. The Leon County community also voted to increase the services and resources to our community, to our kids, through CSC Leon, to increase the services. And I want to tell you guys that this combination is working. We're making a difference in the lives of these kids. We are changing and in many cases saving the lives of each one of these kids in our communities. Any change in the current structure of CHSP would mean that these kids wouldn't have any place to go after school. They wouldn't have a safe place in their own communities. Any change would take away their hope for a great future. Don't undermine and potentially reverse all the tremendous progress that we, all of us together, have made in our community. Let's continue to ensure bright futures of the youth in Leon County. Please, please reject all changes to the current CHSP structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. And we appreciate you bringing the youth today as well. As a matter of fact, Commissioners, let's give the youth a round of applause. Thank you all. We're proud of you.
Sky Best, to be followed by Kim Seneeth.
Hi.
Oh, there she is.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sky Best. I'm 14 years old, and I've been a member of the Springfield Boys and Girls Club for about 3 years now. I live in a 32304 zip code, which is classified as the poorest zip code in the state of Florida, but we are not a product of our environment, thanks to the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club impacts my community by being a safe place for us to go to after school and in our free time. Instead of violence, we choose to go to the Boys and Girls Club, and all activities at the Boys and Girls Club are positive. Opportunities at the Boys and Girls Club are limitless. We do things like go with FSU football players and go to their football games, and my favorite, attend the Youth Advocacy Day at Washington, D.C. I had a blast. It was my first plane ride. I went to go see national monuments, and I was a tourist in a big city. This could not happen without the funds of the Boys and Girls Club. So if you take away our funds, you take away our opportunities, and please don't take away our opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Best. We heard you, 14 years old. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Kim Seneeth, to be followed by Rob Renzi.
What's the last one?
Seneeth.
Good evening. My name is Kim Seneeth. I'm the Executive Director at the Learning Pavilion. We have provided services to kiddos in our community for over 30 years and have received CHSP funding since its inception. We utilize the funding to supplement the salaries of 2
early intervention positions. These positions facilitate therapeutic interventions, coordinate services, and perform standardized developmental assessments for 2 pre-kindergarten classrooms. Our unique model allows us to serve 25% more children with disabilities than a typical preschool and enables us to measure, track, and demonstrate the effectiveness of our program. Loss of the CHSP funding will directly impact the amount of children we can serve with disabilities. In the past, when faced with large changes in categories or in the process, input was collected from agencies before recommendations were made, and recommendations contain reasonable timelines and rollouts, allowing providers the time to prepare and budget. This is a competitive process, but historically, agencies have been able to rely consistently on this process. The rushed manner in which this was introduced has put undue stress upon your cornerstone human service agencies, particularly those serving children and youth. The recommendation makes broad assumptions regarding the role the Children's Service Council will play in our funding landscape. The county staff formally approached the CSC members in late December, and the council's response was very clear. They would not change the way they fund initiatives in reaction to changes within the CHSP process. To clarify, regarding our CSC, there is no current funding opportunity for early learning and/or for agencies whose total revenue exceeds over $100,000 per year. At the January CSC meeting, 3 high-priority initiatives that they've been working on have been postponed and slated to be reheard at the March meeting, and no clear decisions or votes were made regarding the funding for early learning. While it may be the intention of CSC and county staff for the CSC to release an early childhood education RFP in time to alleviate the squeeze in the CHSP budget, that does not mean that that will be the will of the council members. In light of the delayed timeline of current initiatives, upcoming appointment of new council members, there is no way to reasonably assume that the CSC can or will release funding opportunities within the time frame outlined in the county staff recommendation. If this should move forward, it should be expected that the agencies in the children's services category will revise their applications to align with safer categories, inundating the remaining categories with funding requests impacting agencies throughout the process. Please also consider the ramification of deleting categories altogether. Currently applicable agencies must go through the CHSP process rather than approach commissioners individually for funding. This will undoubtedly open the door for agencies in these categories to start individually soliciting the commission. And I urge you to consider the overall health and fabric of the human services sector, maintain the current slate of categories until proper analysis can be done and agencies can prepare for the change. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Sanith.
Rob Renzi to be followed by LaFonda Heidel.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Rob Renzi, CEO of Big Bend Cares and CarePoint. The first thing I want to do is say thank you for redirecting staff to come back to the agencies and had conversations, and then command staff for actually doing that above and beyond. So there was a lot of feedback. And this proposal is significantly better than the one you saw the first time. But it is still with some significant issues and concerns for the agencies. The first is your agenda item, that's 2 items from agenda item 29, where you're going to again send more names to the governor. You already have vacancies on the CSC. You have terms expiring, and now that perhaps he's actually governing the state instead of running for president, those appointments may actually be made. Just like the county commission, one CSC board cannot make a commitment for the following CSC board. And having been involved in a number of the ITNs with Commissioner Cummings, let's say that the CSC is very deliberate. And oftentimes, unlike the commissioners, they use volunteers to staff their meetings. Sometimes they are absent, and then other commissioners present for the CSC, and then the vote changes. One of the concerns is that by putting all your baskets in a March meeting where a number of items have already been pushed from January, you're shrinking the CSC process, which is due to start in October. If it doesn't happen in March, does it go to June? And is that enough time to run the process? So that is the first concern. The second is your ordinance. You have had a sound ordinance for years now, where if you're eligible for CHSP, you cannot come to the county for funding, same as the city. By cutting the categories, it doesn't mean they have to go to CSC. They can now fill out a 3-minute speaker card, and we start to go down the path of the events funding, where people come in and can ask for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 after the meetings because the CSC category or CHSP category no longer exists. My hope for consideration is that you run the cycle one more time, and in 2 years, figure out, let the CSC have time to go through their processes, be deliberate, find out who's being funded, and then make your changes when the agencies already have funding or have a way to be funded. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Renzi.
LaFonda Hyde-Dill to be followed by Fadriana Jean Sutton.
Good afternoon. My name is LaFonda Heidel. I am the CEO of Kids Incorporated. Kids Incorporated of the Big Bend is an organization that serves children from 0 to 3 years old and their families. We are a recipient of the CHSP funds at this time, and we've also been a part of the CRT teams as well. So we've lended some of our staff to serve on those committees. Now, while I understand the need for the realignment of the CHSP process, I believe that it is a disservice to the community and a negative impact on the community to change it this soon. We currently, our organization, as Kim Gabon Countryman has stated, we receive $115,000. With that $115,000, we're able to draw down $460,000. This is what we pour back into our community. We don't know at this time what actions the CSC will take on early learning. So we would like to see that at this time, we take the time to truly see the impact that this realignment will make on our community. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Adriana Jean Sutton to be followed by Vicki Butler.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am Fadrina Sutton, Executive Director for Ladies Learning to Lead, and I'm here to speak about the realignment of CHSP funding categories primarily focused on children, youth, and family, more specifically the elimination of the youth development and mentorship category. Since its founding in 2010, L3 has served thousands of young ladies in middle and high school, preparing them for college, careers, and life. While the CHSP process is competitive, meaning that no organization is guaranteed funding, the loss or more or less the access or opportunity for funding impacts the youth that we serve. We are currently funded through the Youth Development and Mentorship category and previously received funding through the Bridge program. The elimination of this category will, in doubt, negatively affect our ability to provide services to youth in the Big Bend area. Overall, our community benefits from youth development and mentoring programs like ours and others. In general, the community sees an increased high school graduation rate, lower high school dropout rates, healthier relationships and lifestyle choices, and better attitudes about school. Speaking of L3 specifically and our career mentoring program, 87% of the girls that were a part of the program, 100% of the girls that were a part of our program had not had a career mentor before. 87% of those girls said that being a part of the program, it gave them more opportunities to prepare for a career after high school. 91% said that the program helped them to avoid getting involved with drugs and alcohol. 93% said that the program helped them to avoid promiscuous or sexual activity. And 100% of the girls said that after participating in the program, they felt they had what it took to be successful. So I request that the Commission seek greater analysis of the impact of the families to truly understand the ripple effect of such a decision before it's made. or before any action is taken, or subsequently, if the board chooses to move forward with the proposed realignment that includes the elimination of the youth development and mentorship category, that you give community organizations more time to adjust to such a drastic realignment. Our recommendation is that any changes may take effect after the upcoming CHSP funding process, meaning that the implementation would be for the funding cycle of spring 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton.
Vicki Butler, to be followed by the final speaker, Sonia Wilson.
Thank you. First time, get a t-shirt. My name is Vicki Butler. I'm the Director of Operations from the Kearney Center. Thank you for having me today, allowing me to speak. Normally I talk to you about homelessness, talk to you about the fight we're doing out there and all those things. Today I'm going to talk to you as a parent. Probably didn't expect that. Recent graduate from Childs High School. I also have an severely autistic, nonverbal nephew, 5 years old. I understand the importance of the services they provide. I also understand the importance of this realignment. I looked pretty closely at the packet and called your staff multiple times, asking lots of questions. Some of the things that I took away from it, I'm trying to be short with you. The money all comes from tax dollars. It all comes from the same fund. So we've got money going directly to children, which is great. Obviously, I'm a big fan. But then it's also that same pot of money is getting split going to CHSP. The difference is this money is committed to the children. To me, money that the voters have said, you cannot touch. This is only for children. It can't be children plus a road project, children plus something else. You can't push this aside and say, well, there's something more important. This can only be for children and families. To me, that's a guarantee. Money that is in CHSP, if something is more important, to my understanding, if something is much more urgent and more important, that money at CHSP could be cut back at any time. That's my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong. To me as a parent, I want guaranteed money for the kids. So that's how I'm looking at today. I'm not looking at what the realignment means for my agency, though it's important for my agency. I'm not going to downplay it. I'm looking at what am I going to gamble my kids' future on? Am I going to gamble it on knowing that CHSP money is always going to be there at this level? Or am I going to say, I know this stable, renewable fund will be there every year, and I want to gamble on that? I'm a sure bet. That's how I approach it. The other thing that I was a little concerned about was seeing the individuals that were dipping into both pots. That's double dipping. Doesn't matter how you look at it, that's double dipping. There is no other pot. There's not the Council for the Elderly. There's not other pots of money being created out of this for other agencies to be able to do that from. Do not wish them any ill will, but right's right and wrong's wrong. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Final speaker on the issue, Sonia Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's all right. It's all right.
Hi, I'm Sonia Wilson. I'm the Executive Director at the Kearney Center. So what I want to share is a little bit of a different perspective today as well. I've spent the last 16 years in working for a publicly traded, very profitable company. So I supervised over 200 stores, over 13 states. So I have felt what homelessness will do to our businesses in our local shopping centers. It is a severe impact to both homeowners and to local businesses when we have homeless people sleeping on our front porches and out our back doors. We may not want to look at it that this encumbers customers from shopping these said plazas or stores, but it greatly impacts, and what ultimately happens is the businesses close. That's the reality. My job since I've come to the Kearney Center is truly to eradicate homelessness in Tallahassee and to make sure that we provide an environment to help those that are able to transition into self-sufficiency. Both Vicki and I are working countless hours on a staff of 35 people. We operate 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. It is a tall lift for us on our funding. We've had to cut our staff in order to provide for our clients. We're in need of additional bedding. The majority of this month, we have had over 400 clients a night. We're serving well over 1,000 meals a day. What I didn't tell you is I started my humble beginning as a social worker working for the Department of Family and Children's Services. So I have a connection to our families and our children. Like Vicki said, I wish no ill will. I don't. You guys are in a most difficult situation, having to make the choice. But I can tell you our need continues to grow. And if we are going to eradicate homelessness, I need your partnership and support so that we can continue to do the work that we're supposed to do at the Kearney Center CESC. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. County Administrator. That concludes, Commissioners, our public speakers on this particular agenda item. We have a public hearing scheduled at 6 o'clock. I imagine at this particular item, we will have some very robust discussion, and I'd rather not interrupt it with the public hearing. So what we'll do now is we will recess until 6 o'clock. We will have the public hearing at 6 o'clock, then we will come back to this particular item. Thank you so much. Oh, and those of you in the audience, we will take up this item after our public hearing at 6. I don't expect the public hearing to be any more than 1 or 2 minutes. At the most, 1 to 5 minutes, and then we will take up this issue. Thank you so much.